Execute Order 66. Palpatine commands his troops, and Plo Koon can immediately sense that something is wrong. He zips across the city skyline of Kon Nidia. He races past his clone trooper ships, hoping to escape from their attacks. But alas, he's hit. He crashes into a tower, and his ship explodes into pieces. Plo Koon falls unconscious, free-falling from the air. And this is the end of the legendary Jedi. Or is it? Mid-air, Plo wakes up, whips out his lightsaber quickly, and stabs it into a wall, stopping him from hitting the acidic water below. Then he hides away from his own clone troopers by reaching towards a crevice above. Plo Koon lives, and now he simply needs to learn to survive. How does this play out for a hero? Stay tuned for this episode of What If Plo Koon Survived Order 66. Still no sign of the Jedi, sir, one of the clone troopers reports. After Plo wakes up, he hears the voices of troopers nearby. Plo can sense the presence of these clones, tens of thousands of them searching for him. In his current weakened state, he wouldn't be able to take them on. His respirator is damaged, and his breathing grows heavy. His eyes dart around quickly as he looks for somewhere to hide. Then, he sees a nearby trash chute, and he hatches an idea for cover. It isn't perfect, but it would do. Keep searching. I want him cold, the commander replies. Plo limps towards the nearby trash compactor that he sees, knowing that he would have to trust in the Force for his survival. He opens up the lid, and just as he hears the steps of boots growing closer, he jumps in. However, something unexpected happens. As Plo hops into the compactor, he feels his feet begin to slip. He looks down, noticing that there's no floor. This wasn't a trash compactor at all. For a moment, he scrambles, trying to catch his footing on the slick ledge. However, it's to no avail. Arrgh! Plo shouts as he slides down the sleek metal chute below him. He slides into a dank, dingy basement, lights flickering, tabletops covered in soot and dust. Mechanical parts and tools are hanging on the wall neatly and orderly, but the walls are rugged with doodles of designs and mechanical blueprints as well. The floor is unpolished and has bits of pebbles, nuts, and screws scattered around here and there. In the middle of the room, a large, mysterious item is blanketed by a piece of cloth. He could vaguely make out the shape of the vehicle, but he had no idea what it was. As Plo looks around for a safe place to hide, a mysterious figure enters the room. He has a muscular build, he's wearing a tank top, and he has a utility belt and cargo pants. His pockets are full of trinkets and tools, and he clanks with every step that he takes. You've got 10 seconds to give me a good reason why I shouldn't light you up like a torch, the man says. Then he looks deeply into Plo's eyes, staring him down. The weakened Plo couldn't muster a single word in his condition. He simply groans. The mysterious man sees the distress in Plo's gaze, and slowly his tough exterior winds down. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Bang, bang, bang! The troopers viciously smack. Anyone home? One of them asks, and Ugnaught rushes down the hall, crying for the mysterious man's attention. I'll get that, Gak. Tell everyone to stay away from the door. Hide, and take this man with you. Gak Rick and Ugnaught, short, stout, thick eyes with swine-like features, wearing welding goggles and overalls, with his wrench in his hand, nods nervously, then he screams for everybody else to hide in his native tongue. As the man goes to deal with the troopers, the Ugnaught drags Plo under the blanket with the covered machine, and he hides him there to make Plo stay put. At the front door, 2 troopers knock to inquire about Plo's whereabouts. Have you seen this man? Asks one of the troopers, holding a hologram depicting Plo Koon's image. He starts to put 2 and 2 together, and then the man realizes that Plo is a fugitive. I've never seen this man in my whole life, he answers. Are you sure? Some people reported they saw him around here somewhere, the other trooper asks. Nope. I swear upon my mother's dying breath, and family means everything to me, he says. Okay, carry on then, replies the trooper. Have a good day, citizen. As the troopers start to leave, a giant clashing noise emanates from the basement, followed by a small, continuous hiss. Plo had accidentally broken one of the pieces from the machine that he had leaned upon for support. The Ugnaught panics, 1 because he broke the machine, and 2 because a hissing noise from the broken machine was being incredibly loud, which alerted the troopers above the basement workshop that something wasn't right. What was that? The trooper asked. Nothing. It's just my Pet Lothwolf. The man leans against the door to try and divert the guard's attention. A Lothwolf on Kato Naimoidia? The trooper replies. Yeah, I'm originally from Lethal, and everyone has one. He's a good pup, so I brought him here. We need to take a look. He's asleep. Let's not bother him. The man tries to dissuade the trooper. Out of my way. The trooper pushes him aside. Meanwhile, in the basement, Gak frantically tries to fix the machines and stop the hissing noise. Gak tries everything in his power to fix it, but nothing seems to work. He swears in Ugnaught every single fail attempt he makes, which only draws even more suspicion from the troopers. Hey, I don't think there's a need to go check on old Bruno. He's a heavy sleeper and he doesn't like being disturbed, the man says, following the troopers. The clones ignore his request. They reach the basement, and the hissing under the cloth catches their attention. You sure you want to do this, guys? He issues them a final warning, before he tries to attack them by surprise, raising his wrench from behind. Gak, now terrified, tries a final trick up his sleeve and jams a part into the machine by force. The trooper delicately grips the end of the cloth and slowly begins to lift it up. Just in time, Gak stops the hissing sound, but as he takes a breather, he leans onto the crank and starts the engine. The engine makes a sound as if it was a beast roaring. It continues to run and makes a similar sound to that of a growl, like none other than a Lothwolf. The troopers panic and race for the door, not even saying farewell. Oh, have a nice day, my friend. We're sorry about the disturbance, he says. Then, the door slides shut behind them. Gak quickly turns off the engine, still having a heart attack from the incident. All right, everyone, the coast is clear, the man declares. Everyone in the crew begins to enter the basement to check what's going on. What's up with all these troopers? Aren't they supposed to be busy fighting the government or something? Says Solana Tesh, a blue-skinned Twi'lek with light blue eyes, wearing an old and worn leather jacket. Her sleeves are rolled up slightly. Sounds like they were looking for a fight. I bet that I could have taken all of them, says Taja Kryze, who still wears her Mandalorian armor. She adjusts her helmet, fantasizing about killing all of the troopers one by one in classical Mandalorian fashion. Then, an 8-foot, enormous basilisk with thick, heavy arms ducks under the doorframe, stepping 1 foot at a time to enter the room. With every step that he takes, a bit of dust on the ceiling is shaken off, and the lights dangling back and forth. Things on the tabletop bounce from the mini earthquakes he causes with his steps. Well, that's not very nice, is it? The cleanup afterward would be so messy, he says in the nicest, most gentle voice that you can dream of. Thank you all, Plo remarks. I owe you my life. He coughs with his respirator still not working properly. We've got to fix you up before you do give us your life, says the man. Oh, sorry, where are my manners? My name's Von Darsal, and this is my crew, he says. He begins to point to his team one by one. You've met Gak Rick. Gak says hi in the Ugnaught language. Solana Tesh. Solana waves him hello. Taja Kryze. Taja gives him one of those upwards nods to indicate respect. And then the big man right here. The basilisk puffs up his chest, flexes both of his arms, and declares his name with all of the majesty that he has. Jeff! The basilisk interjects, trying to make his name sound powerful, but it turns out to just be cute instead. Oh. Plo is anticipating the name of a mighty warrior, so he's a bit shocked by the answer. Just Jeff. Yup, just Jeff. Given to me by my grandmother. She thought the name was beautiful. Well, it was nice meeting you all. I must be going now, Plo says, still letting out many coughs as he attempts to stand. Huh. To where? In your state? You can barely get past this door, especially if those troopers are looking for you, Taj snidely replies. Don't worry, we won't tell anyone we're here. Let me just fix up your mask and lay low until the troopers are gone. It might take a few days, Vaughn assures the weakened Plo. Plo looks at everyone in the room. It was the first time in his life that he didn't need to prove anyone his loyalty. With the betrayal of his troopers, this feels fantastic. Thank you all, but you don't need to be so kind to a wounded man like me. As you can see, my presence here is a danger to all of you, Plo utters. The war has been harsh with all of us. We lost quite a bit too, so please, stay with us. Solana reaches out to Plo, patting him on the shoulders. Alright, enough with this touchy-feeling. Let's get him fixed up. I can hear his breathing from here. In the next few days, Plo begins to heal from his injuries. He starts to integrate into the life of these crew members. He feels a sense of camaraderie that he had with his troopers back before Order 66, a group of people that he could trust. Once again, he feels at home. Every day, Plo wakes up, and he works with the crew in the basement workshop, hiding from Imperial officers and clones who inquire about his whereabouts. While he uses his knowledge from when he was still a general, he begins to design new engines, while alongside his friends. One day, Plo wakes up just as normal to see what the crew is working on today. He views the full list of starships that they're fixing. As he's making his checklist, his attention is diverted back to the mysterious machine under the blanket, the machine that had saved his life. He wanted to know what was under that cloth. He didn't get a good look at the machine, and he was heavily injured, and his sense was weakened at the time. His curiosity gets the better of him, and seeing that his injuries were almost all healed up, he decides to take a peek at the machine. He grabs the blanket and lifts it to reveal that it's a custom-made, never-seen-before, all-terrain pod racer, similar to the one that Anakin had raced on Tatooine, but this one they would have to make fit the terrain of Cato Neimoidia. The outer layer is covered with layers and layers of protection, making it more bulky, heavy-duty, and capable of venturing through the rocky mountainside of Cato Neimoidia. There are no creases of the engine that would be unprotected. The build is far more compact, allowing the vehicle to glide through the twisty mountains and roads easily. Everything is reinforced, as if the impact is inevitable. The vehicle is also fitted with 2 seats, expecting one to be a passenger. The pod racer is fitted with large air vents for outside cooling. 2 large headlights glow at the front, as if it were a pair of fierce eyes staring at prey. As a pilot, Plo is amazed by the design. Every inch of the vehicle is engineered to perfection to serve a purpose on the road. He brushes his hand across the surface, and dust comes off the nameplate. It reveals the name of the vehicle, Lone Wolf. So, you've met old Bruno. Vaughn enters the room, sipping on his bantha milk-infused tea.
My apologies, I didn't mean to intrude,
Plo replies. No, he saved your life back there, and I think you need to formally meet him. Vaughn jokingly replies, Come, let me show you something. Vaughn leads Plo to the pod racer, and they dive deep into the mountains of Cato Neimoidia together, revving the engine and going for an adventure. There, on a small winding path segmented by forests and trees, Vaughn weaves the racer in and out of caverns and crevices with Plo by his side. Vaughn shows him the roads that he used to drive and learn techniques all those years ago, explaining how those on Cato Neimoidia differ from other planets that he's been to. Plo enjoys the little talk as he exchanges some of his experience as well. He tells him about piloting adventures and how he'd escaped from many separatist aerial attacks. Vaughn finds this amusing, and a brotherly bond begins to form. They reach the top of the mountain. Vaughn stops the racer, and he tells Plo something spectacular. Now, this is the fun part. Vaughn looks down at the winding road. He continues, You said you're a pilot, right? He turns to Plo, a smirk on his face. Show me. Plo looks at the road ahead, still weak, and his force sensitivity weakened as well.
I cannot see the road ahead,
Plo says. Of course he can't. What are you, a pair of natural-born binoculars or something? This is why I give you the instructions in the back seat. You've got this. He pats him on the back, and they switch seats at the top of the mountain. Plo revs the engine. He revs it a few times, and although he's weak with the force at the moment, he somehow still feels an instant connection to the vehicle, as if the pod racer is speaking to him. All right, buddy. On 3. Vaughn gets him ready. 1. Plo grips the handles. 2. Plo steps on the gas. 3. Plo pedals to the metal and sends the pod racer deep down into the forest. The twisty, winding roads are very difficult from the vast space that he was used to, but with strong basic knowledge of piloting, he's able to fly past the fields with ease. A trail of dust clouds looming from the back of the vehicle engulf the trees that he passes. All right, you're doing great. The tricky part is up ahead, so I need you to listen up carefully.
Got it.
Okay, hard left up ahead. After hearing Vaughn's instructions, Plo hits the brakes and shifts to the left, driving the racer. Plo does the turn smoothly. Vaughn's incredibly impressed. Great work, Plo. You're a natural, Vaughn applauds.
Thanks. It was all in the...
As Plo replies to Vaughn, he hits a small rock on the left side of his engine, causing the racer to sway. Plo stays calm and adjusts quickly. Maybe we should focus on my instructions, Vaughn replies. Plo nods. He slowly becomes more familiar with the controls as they race around the cliffside of the mountain range of the planet. One small mistake could lead them to fall into the acidic ocean of Kato below. But with the precise piloting from Plo, there was no problem keeping up with the road. And soon enough, they reached their final destination, a mountainside casino with Neimoidian oligarchs there enjoying their pleasures, gambling and partying. Wait here, says Vaughn, as he tells Plo to park outside the casino. Vaughn jumps out of the racer, and Plo's a little bit confused, but he plays along. Maybe he just needs to talk to a friend or two, nothing suspicious. Plo takes a moment to look at the scenery, aside from the bustling casino. The nature of Kato Neimoidia is breathtaking. Plo takes a moment to bask in the wonderful planet, feeling the living force flowing through him. He then sees next to the casino a racetrack where a few pod racers were practicing their driving, polishing their cars and fixing up their vehicles. A young boy walks up to Plo in that instant. Whoa, is that a pod racer? The kid asks.
Indeed it is, little one,
Plo replies. That's so cool. Are you a racer?
Huh. I'm afraid not, but maybe one day if I practice more.
He gives the boy a little bit of encouragement to practice what he loves. Will you be in the next race then? The kid asks excitedly.
I'll see if I can fit that into my schedule,
Plo says, and he waves the child a kind goodbye. Not long after, Vaughn races towards the ship with a giant sack of credits thrown onto his back and guards chasing him down. Start the engine! Start the engine! Plo is shocked with this turnout of events. He couldn't process what was going on, so he just steps on the pedal and doesn't know what's happening.
What is going on?
Plo asks. I could explain, and I will once we get back to the workshop. Let's lose our tails first. As Vaughn tells Plo to focus on the road, 4 guards on speeder bikes race to try and catch up with them.
You have a lot of explaining to do,
Plo exclaims. As he finishes this sentence, he sees that one of the guards is dangerously close to the racer. The guard grabs the side of the vehicle, trying to hop on and arrest Vaughn. Plo masterfully sways the vehicle, loosening the guard's grip. As Plo rides along the mountainside, an idea comes to mind. He drives deep into the forest, attempting to use the winding roads to lose the guards on speeders behind him. The guards are not effective pilots. As soon as they hit those winding roads, they can sense their speeders buckling under the immense movement and practice, the precision that they would need to race through those trees. So they stop at the beginning of the forest and watch as Plo goes deeper and deeper into the bowels of the trees. Nice work, Plo, Vaughn says. Plo remains silent, unsure of Vaughn's intentions. From here, with some skill and a little bit of luck, Plo brings Vaughn safely back to the workshop. Following that, he has something to say about Vaughn's actions.
Vaughn, what were you thinking?
Plo scolds.
Explain yourself.
I had to do what I have to for survival, Vaughn explains.
Survival is not an excuse for thievery where I'm from,
Plo continues. Listen here, you high and mighty Jedi. This is the real world, not your ivory tower. This is how things work down here on Kato Neimoidia, Vaughn continues.
That does not excuse you from stealing from others. Think of the people working in that casino, the people like you.
The money here, in this bag, all of these are from the rich oligarchs, the greedy businessmen, who cheats and disguise themselves as politicians. Not a single cent is going to their workers.
And that justifies stealing what isn't yours? If you act in justice but not a just way, your generosity is meaningless.
Not here it isn't. Solana leads the crew in. We understand that you Jedi have a strong code and are strict with following the law. But here, the law is whatever helps the businesses. We don't like this, and there's no amount of fighting that'll get us out of this. Gak Rak, riding on Jeff's shoulders, spews a lot of info to Plo in Ugnaughtiese. Gak says that people are suffering, and this is the best option that we have right now, Jeff translates. Plo steps back. realizing that this attitude is more than just Vaughn being reckless. It's the whole planet fighting for survival. With the oligarchs monopolizing trade and industry, these poor are getting poorer, and the rich only gain more wealth. But Plo still refuses to back down from his Jedi principles. He looks at the pod racer, and an idea comes to his head.
How about this? I'll enter the pod race in a few weeks. When I win...
If you win, Taja interjects, pointing her finger at Plo.
When I win, I will split the prize money with you all evenly. I'm going to do this the fair way.
Silence hits the room, and then Jeff bursts into a slight chuckle. Then, not long after, everyone starts to laugh, except for Vaughn. No offense. You're an excellent driver, but there's no way that you're winning that race, Vaughn says.
What do you mean?
Asks Plo. You see, it's sort of an open secret that the casino backs Max Steppenwolf in every single race, Taja said. Either he wins or they make him win, says Jeff.
It doesn't matter with my training. I think that we have a shot,
Plo replies. Everyone sits in silence. They ponder the thought. But who are they kidding? Then Vaughn stands up. Guys, I see that this Jedi has potential. Out of all of our previous attempts, this might be the time that we actually have a shot at winning this thing. Sure, he has to learn a couple of things, but if this guy believed we could be better, I'm game. I am ready to give this a shot. We can do this the fair way. We can win this. Plo's a Jedi, for goodness sakes. We don't see them often around here, but back when I was growing up, the Jedi were beacons of hope for the entire galaxy. I'm willing to bet that in this moment, he can be a beacon of hope for us. And we have to do everything we can to support him if we are going to win. Who's at least willing to give this a shot? There's no point in not trying. The crew starts to hear him out, and they believe in him. Each one of them begin to rile up and start throwing their ideas out there. Soon, they have a full-fledged plan to compete in the next big pod racing match. Plo smiles, thinking about the young child that he'd seen at the casino. Hopefully, he would get to make that little boy proud. With the entire crew on board, Plo starts to train. Vaughn pats him on the shoulder as he runs many laps of the same track that they had just practiced with the casino, winding through the forests. Vaughn sits on the side, hoping to give Plo instructions, and they continue to work through everything together. Jeff smiles when they get back to the mechanic shop. He looks at them both, and he is just happy to see Vaughn so overjoyed. He looks at Plo, pleased that the Jedi was here to bring them some hope and to bring them knowledge about how to live their lives in a cleaner way. He's excited, and he's being so gentle with Plo, telling him about everything that goes on Cato Neimoidia. He's quite a chatty lad, actually, and Plo really appreciates hearing everything that he has to say. Whenever Plo works with Gak on the sidelines, they end up chatting for so long. Plo can't really understand what Gak's saying, but Jeff provides a good translation for him. Plo is eager to hear more about his story and where he came from. He likes knowing that Gak was a worker, a servant in the crime syndicates for many, many years. He had been born to a family that was indentured in service to the Pikes, and he had managed to escape, coming to Cato Neimoidia to start a new life. Plo found that incredibly inspiring, and he looks to Gak for further inspiration. Taja often takes pot shots at them when they're racing, just to keep Plo on his feet. Plo manages to avoid many of them, but some of them scrape the side of his racer. Her Mandalorian aim is impeccable, and her jetpack allows her to keep up with the racer at a decent pace. Taja laughs every time she hits Plo, saying that if the Mandalorians and the Jedi were still enemies, she thinks she'd have a good shot at him. She then reveals that she left home because she had gotten bored with all of the pacifism on Mandalore, but she also didn't like the ideals of Death Watch. She just wanted to do her own thing. She wanted to be a mercenary. She wanted to explore the galaxy. So, she'd come and settled on Cato Neimoidia, and had found a good crew to settle in with. Plo tells her that she makes a fantastic Mandalorian, and that nobody should ever tell her otherwise. Solana and Plo in the evenings will often go and talk about the day. They sit watching the sunset on Cato Moidia together, and Plo talks to her about everything that he'd gone through as a Jedi. He regales to her many of his war stories, and she tells him about life on her homeworld of Ryloth. She talks about the corrupt senator, how the Clone Wars had destroyed her planet and torn her family apart. She talks about how the heroic antics of Cham Syndulla had helped liberate Ryloth from the separatist boot, only to have this new empire come in and change everything again. She hoped that her people would find liberation once again, but for now, she was good to just sit on the sidelines and watch, hoping that she could make a better life for herself, so that one day she would be able to return with something to offer Cham's forces. One night, as Vaughn and Plo are sitting in the racer together, Vaughn starts to ask Plo many questions. So, what was it like serving in the Clone Wars?
Oh, it was...
Plo struggles to find the words to describe much of his trauma.
Painful, he says. Many of the Jedi treated the clones like they were expendable, but to me, they were my brothers, and seeing them die, and seeing them all just turn on me, it was hurtful, he says.
Vaughn turns and looks back towards the rest of the garage.
Yeah, I understand that feeling, he says. I used to work with the Black Sun back in the day. I was an enforcer, one of the best. They sent me on many missions to go to many places and rough up many people. Oftentimes I got involved with the wrong crowds. One day I decided that life wasn't for me. One day after that, they caught me, brought me back in, called me a traitor. I said, I'm not a traitor. You guys just don't operate how I like to anymore. You see, my family, they were big weapons dealers, and they would always talk to the Black Sun, and I just sort of got roped into the family business. Then I came to Cato Moidia, started a new life for myself, escaped from the Pikes, from the Crimson Dawn, from the Hutts, from all of them. They've all got bounties on my head, but nobody would even think to find me here, especially after I shaved my head and changed my entire appearance. The old classy enforcer of the Black Sun, now just an ordinary man. Vaughn trails off, thinking about his past. Plo puts his hand on his shoulder. You're a brave man, leaving like that. A life of crime is difficult to escape, but it seems as though you've done a good job.
Vaughn looks back at Plo.
You know what? In all of those times, I always looked to the Jedi as my hope. Maybe one day they would save me. Maybe one day I would have the courage to do the right thing, just like those Jedi always did. He gazes deep into Plo's eyes for a moment. Now, you're here, and I think it might be a sign. I think that the Jedi were the good guys after all. And I think that having you here is a sign that I need to change my ways again.
Plo smiles.
I can't wait to help you. I'm going to win this race, he says.
Vaughn looks at him and nods.
You'll do your best, he says. You still don't believe in me? Says Plo.
Vaughn looks away again, his eyes glazing over.
We'll see what happens, he says.
Finally, the day of the big race comes. Plo's heart is racing as he prepares for the first race of his life. He knows that he's adequately prepared, and he believes that he's going to be able to defeat whoever this track throws at him due to his force abilities. He's gotten to know the terrain quite well during his time on Cato Moidia, and he is fully confident in his abilities. However, that still doesn't stop the rush of adrenaline from pumping through his veins as he hops in the racer. Good luck out there, Plo, Vaughn says to his friend before the race begins. We'll be in your pit watching the whole thing. Don't hesitate to stop if you need us. We've got your back, he says, smirking.
Of course, my friend. If I need your help, I'll swoop right in.
Vaughn nods at Plo with respect before returning to the pit.
Welcome to the 156th annual Cato Moidia Classic.
Fode's voice projects through the speakers to the spectators on the track. Tonight we have a fantastic race set out for you all, and many of your favorite racers are competing for the Kato Cup, along with the sizable amount of credits that come with being the victor. Honor has its spoils, does it not, Bede? Bede nods, and then he lists all of the racers on the track. Plo Koon only recognizes a couple of names from his research. He'd heard that Ben Quadraneros was racing, and Plo was excited. That had always been one of his favorite racers from the holo footage that he'd seen. He also hears the name Dud Bolt, who he'd seen pop up on a few holos as well. Tonight, we have a new competitor on the track as well, a name who we've heard has been practicing for many months to perfect his craft on the winding Kato tracks. He spends his time every single day practicing and getting ready for this race. He's decided to race anonymously, but keep an eye out for that new pod on the back. He may end up surprising us all, eh, Bede? Plo had decided to race without using his full name, hoping that it would dissuade the Imperials from looking into his whereabouts. He'd been a famous Republic general, and keeping a low profile was important to him, even though he loved racing. Plo feels his heart pumping out of his chest. He grabs the handles of his racer and grips them hard, taking a deep breath to calm himself before the race begins. Fode announces the guest of honor, which is some Imperial governor for the system, who strikes the ceremonial gong, signifying the beginning of the race. With that, Plo is off. He feels the force flow through him as he narrowly avoids many of the track's edges, careful to stay in his lane but also not to lose any of his speed. He weaves in and out of many trees that the tracks cut through, pushing himself to the limit. Plo can sense himself propelling forward, maneuvering in front of racer after racer. He watches as some of them fall prey to the small width of the rocky track, falling into the depths below with a howling scream. Plo didn't even want to imagine what would happen if those racers hit the acid water below. He keeps himself quick but steady, and he even passes the legendary Ben Quadraneros, who looks shocked as the new racer floats by him with ease, especially since something similar had happened in a recent race on Tatooine. Plo centers his pod as the first lap finishes, ensuring that he doesn't fall prey to the winding twists that he'd seen some of the other racers succumb to. After his first lap, Plo feels confident. He continues to zoom through the seemingly endless twists and turns, navigating them well. Our anonymous racer climbs the ranks into second place as the race continues. It seems like none of our challengers can reach him, nor the legendary Max Steppenwolf, the Neimoidian racer who is currently being gained on by his mysterious opponent. What a nail-biter, eh, Bede? Fode proclaims. Plo can see the Neimoidian in his sights. He accelerates slightly, pushing himself and his piloting abilities to the max. As the second lap concludes, Plo zooms past Max with a smile on his face. There's no tussle, no tit-for-tat trickery that he had heard would occur on the racetracks. Plo had gotten into first place, fair and square. Soon, however, all of that would change. What Plo doesn't notice, as he was zooming through the starting arch to begin his final lap, is the wealthy Neimoidians in the press box chattering with one another. They'd bet on Max to win, and they weren't going to lose any money because of some nobody. They gave a signal to their racer below, and the slight nod to give a go-ahead. As Plo is coming to the finish line, getting ready without a care in the world to zoom through on that third lap in first place, proud that he was coming to a victorious end, and eager to help his friends. 2 shots fire from the stand simultaneously. Plo feels his engines giving out. He sees them both catching fire, and he doesn't have time to fix them. It was just like when he practiced with Taja Kreese in the forests, but this time the bolts were much more powerful, and his engines cannot sustain them. He sees them both catching fire, and he doesn't have any time to fix them. Immediately, he's brought back into the moment that the clones destroyed his fighter. Then 2 more shots hit his engines, and he goes up in flames. Just as Plo is about to cross that finish line as the first place racer, he crashes, maneuvering his pod as close to Von Darsal's pit as he can. He jumps out frustrated, and he watches as the Neimoidian rival soars across the finish line. "Oh, that's got a sting for our new racer," Fode exclaims. "What a nasty blow that was at the finish. Who would have guessed that was going to happen?" he asks the crowd. "I don't care what universe you're in, but that's gotta hurt." The crowd cheers as Max Steppenwolf disembarks from his pod. Plo looks up and he sees the smiling faces of the wealthy businessmen in the press box looking favorably upon their racer and taking credits from a droid nearby. He can sense their greed and he knows in his gut that they had been the ones who sabotaged him. Perhaps Vaughn and his crew had been right. This place really was cruel. "You okay, Plo?" Vaughn asks, racing to his friend's aid with the rest of the crew. Plo coughs through the smoke. Yes, I'm fine. I just didn't expect..." He trails off. "You didn't expect them to screw you over like that, eh?" Vaughn replies. "Welcome to Kon Nidia. The rich get richer and the rest of us get left in the dark." Plo contemplates that for a moment. "Maybe you were right, Darsal. Maybe you were right after all." After the race, Plo feels defeated. Not because of the loss, but because Vaughn was proven right about this place, that it was run by oligarchs and you needed to cheat in order to win. The ruling Neimoidians came by and they looked at Plo and Vaughn's crew, launching taunts at them, calling them filthy immigrants and that they're lucky to have a place on the planet. This enrages Vaughn and his crew, and he huddles them around to hatch a plan to steal everything that those guys had stolen for Plo. They go to the casino and the racer, and they enter, looking like rich, wealthy customers. Then Vaughn tells Plo to wait outside. Plo knows what's going on this time, and he is happy that he will not be taking part in it. Not long after, Vaughn and his entire crew dash out from that casino, holding stacks of credits from the race. Gak holds the trophy in his hand. They rush towards the pod racer and then jump in, cramped in the seating. Everyone squishes into the vehicle. While chaos reigns at the casino, everybody screaming for help, the rich folks ordering for the crew to be arrested, they end up escaping. Guards scramble for their gears to arrest these folks that had just stolen so much from them, or rather, taken back what was rightfully theirs. "All right, go! Let's get out of here," Vaughn says. In an oh-so-familiar scene, they race away, but this time, Plo has few regrets. He's just glad that he can call his crew family. At the end of the day, Plo has changed his identity. He no longer considers himself a Jedi, although he still holds fairly strong principles. Now he's a racer, and his mechanic friends are his new family. He still struggles with specters from his past, but he handles them well. While he's considering his next race, he settles on the Boonta Eve Classic on Tatooine. While watching, he sees a strange man in a mechanical suit with an ancient racer cross the finish line, second to Sebulba, the man that Plo really wanted to beat. He wonders who this newcomer is, and he starts to prepare for his next race. When the time for the Boonta Eve Classic rolls around, Plo is ready. But so is somebody else. Well, look at what we got here, 8-6. An oh-so-familiar voice for our loyal viewers watching at home may recognize as Taku. It seems like we have some new competition this time, right, Mr. Tacoma? 8-6 replies, looking across the pit at the new racer. Plo? Anakin looks closer at his former Jedi compatriot. You know that guy? Taku asks. At Plo's station, Vaughn looks at Anakin's racer. That guy's eyeing you. You want me to go kick his ass after the race? Taja asks. Let's not get into any trouble for Plo this time. I think we want to let him race in peace, especially on Tatooine, Vaughn tells Taja. Plo senses that familiar presence in the Force as he looks across at the other racer in the mechanical suit. He couldn't believe it, but it had to be true. Skywalker? Plo mutters. Clap, clap. Hey kid, snap out of it. The race is about to start. Taku wakes Anakin from his stare down. Right. Anakin focuses all of his attention on the upcoming race. Remember to use that technique we practiced, just like in Beggar's Canyon. All eyes are now on the two ex-Jedi that will face each other in the race of their lifetime. Hey there folks, now's the time that we transition into the Ask Me Anything period, where people from the Discord get to pose questions and I will respond. So if you want in on that, please join the Discord. Today's question is another one from Darth Malgus, and he is asking what my favorite movie is. Well, of course, the easy answer on this would be Revenge of the Sith, because that is my favorite movie of all time, but I was thinking, what was it outside of Star Wars? And I had a difficult time contemplating that. But I came up with an answer. Because I'm a martial artist, I really like The Karate Kid. It's just a movie that's full of great martial arts. It's kind of silly the way it ends, but whatever. It's inspiring to young martial artists, and it encourages many folks to take up an interest in martial arts, which is a lifestyle, not just a sport. If it wasn't for martial arts, I wouldn't be who I am today, and every time that I watch The Karate Kid, well, it inspires me. The same is true with the Rocky movies. I gotta say, my favorite Rocky movie, though, is the one where he fights Ivan Drago from the Soviet Union. That one is spectacular, and I recently had an experience similar to that where, I'm not a super high belt in the style of Taekwondo that I've been training the past few years, but I'm improving slowly, and I went to a tournament recently, and there was a guy in my division, and he was just a Russian bear, and I had to spar him. I was the smallest in my weight class, and my first match was against this guy. There were only 3 of us, so I didn't get another chance at redemption, and he beat me. He beat me fair and square. I put up a good fight, though, but this guy was just crazy. He was very Russian, and I felt like Rocky fighting Ivan in in that Rocky movie. So that was just a great experience, and I learned a lot from it, because that's what martial arts is. It's a learning experience. It's a way to grow in physical fitness, but also in mental discipline and in personal ethics and values. It's a lifestyle. Anyway, I would just like to thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, I would highly recommend that you check out another video which is linked to this one, which was what if Vader came back and raced like Anakin Skywalker did. Another great video that I had an awesome time making, and it's heavily connected to this one, so I would recommend you go check that one out. In addition, I would also highly recommend that you join our Discord server and leave your thoughts of this video in the comments below. Would you like to see a part 2? If so, what do you think will happen next? Also, I would like to ask you, outside of Star Wars, what would you say your favorite film is? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that every single one of you has an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. And, as always, I'm hoping that each and every one of you has had your daily delicious dose of Bantha Stew.